Number 7, Burley Road, Hinckley. And so it was that Wardle and Keach of Kettering then moved Jan, Adam, me and our possessions to 7 Burley Road, Hinckley, the former home of a postman who had decorated his house in orange, purple and pillarbox red paint. I wonder where he got that from. The house was priced at £7,000, so with our £3,000 of savings we took out a mortgage for the difference. Jan obtained a full-time post at the nearby Middlefield School. I began work as a lecturer at Hinckley Technical College. When I arrived at Hinckley, the staff were suffering a culture shock. Whereas the former head of business studies and the former principal had locked themselves away in their rooms each day to write textbooks, the new Welsh duo of Jenkins and Davis were determined, it seems, to put the place to rights. In my first term there was a prize-giving evening with guest speaker Rab Butler, whose son was Hinckley's current Member of Parliament. I remember his speech in which he referred to a new member of staff who was teaching a very important subject, economics, and then later realised that he was talking about me. One of the evening classes that I was given was A-level economics, and I was also given a particularly bright student who was normally one chapter ahead of me the whole time. During 1975 I built a 12-foot by 12-foot extension onto the back of the house. An architect to whom I had taught economics drew up the plans, which were passed by the local council. We drew up a list of materials, which I obtained from a local builder's merchant, and with a local builder named Clive Middleton commenced work. The clay soil meant that I didn't have to dig down too deeply. Jan's dad gave us a metal door and a large metal window frame. And when Mum visited one day, I took her out in her car for a drive to a local dump and returned with 2 wooden doors, which otherwise would have just rotted away. Having got the joists in place, I laid the perspex roof, a piece of which flew off into our neighbour's garden, narrowly missing his son playing in the garden. The total cost of the project was less than £200. A year later we decided to build a solid roof onto the extension, so with brother-in-law John's help, one bank holiday, this was done. On the 18th of September 1975, Paul was born at Round Hill's maternity home in Leicester Forest East. Each Friday, Jan and I would push Paul in his large pram over to the supermarket and return looking as if we were pushing a very large supermarket trolley. Adam was killed by a car, and with tears in my eyes I buried him in the garden before going to work. I remember him first arriving at the Worcester flat, and the way he would be waiting for me on the garden wall each day when I returned home from Hinckley College, and how he would leap onto my shoulder and sit there like a parrot. At college I was teaching economics, law and sociology to ordinary national diploma students, as well as A-level night classes. As with my own experience, I saw a number of students who had failed at school blossom in further education. I was also sent to a number of residential meetings where we were developing the new BEC courses, which were to replace OND. For 1 year, Noel Otley, a fellow lecturer, and I taught a new subject called Family Economics, which was being considered as a possible new O-level by the Associated Examining Board. From the experience we gained, we wrote a book incorporating many of the ideas and materials that we had developed with the students. Pitmen were very interested and were about to sign on the dotted line when AEB suddenly announced that they were no longer going to launch Family Economics as an O-level. Kevin Commons was appointed as the lecturer responsible for liberal studies, and he soon, with the assistance of Noel and I, had an elaborate Wednesday afternoon programme of liberal studies running, which involved all full-time students. My job was to go round and take the registers. The engineering lecturers cynically referred to the three of us as the Trinity. Grandpa Whiteman and Auntie Gladys came to stay for Paul's first birthday. However, Jan was none too pleased when she discovered Grandpa with Paul at the piano, with all of Paul's presents unwrapped and nothing left to identify who had sent what. We could only put it down to Grandpa's deprived childhood, which he was now living out, as it should have been. Took the train from Hinckley to Wigan for the Christmas holiday at Billinge. Jan began studies with the Open University, starting with the Arts Foundation course, and moving on to units concerned with comparative religion, music, and the history of technology. I followed her example 2 years later, but with the Science Foundation course, followed by computer-related units. As the time drew near for our second child to be born, Jan and I decided to buy a car. I got on well with the mechanical engineering lecturer, and he agreed to look over an orange Mini that I had seen advertised. He spotted a number of faults, and so helped me get the price down. I then set about servicing the car, and on completing that was so proud of myself that I went into the house to tell Jan. She announced that the contractions had started, and so we went straight out to the car, but I could not get it into gear. I had been a bit too clever on the clutch adjustment. So after a mild panic, I disappeared under the car again. Fortunately, all was well after that, and Catherine was born on the 10th of May at Round Hill's maternity home in Leicester.